What's up, guys? Zach, what's up, Bart? What's up, man? 285. Oh, Lord. Brutal loss for Arkansas. Flashbacks to when they choked against Oregon State. Yeah, that was about as bad of a final inning defensively as you could draw up. Just mistakes. Like that's the only thing you can really say is mistakes. Simple as that. I mean, you had a double play ball, and again, like I saw people on social media with Aloy saying, "Well, I don't know if it's a bad idea to go to third there." Well, that run, first of all, didn't matter. Like that's not the tying run. So getting that, if that's the tying run, and you want to, even then, if it's the tying run with one out, you got to try to go for the double play, and like that was just totally a bad decision to get the lead runner at third instead of trying to turn a double play. You have to try to turn a double play in that situation. And by all accounts, it looked like a cleanly turned double play probably ends the game and they win. And then left fielder just did not read it well. And some people say he slipped. To me, I think it was kind of like a bad read and then kind of a panic dive. And again, it was just about as bad of an inning as you could possibly have defensively if you were Arkansas, and then you give up, the walk-off single, and like some people are like, oh, they could have made that play too. That was a very difficult play. The other two should have been made, right? The double play probably should have been turned. The ball to the outfield should have been caught. The line drive up the middle, while could it have been caught? Sure, that would have been a very good play. The others, not so much. Feel bad for that kid. Yeah, I feel bad for him too. I mean, that's the reality. When you get on the biggest stage, that has a chance of happening. And again, I just think it was a bad read, and then a panic dive, or just a panic in general that either caused him to trip. It looked like to me he dove, like he made the decision to dive. So would you say JUCO guys are now third on the priority list behind D1 transfers and high school players? I wouldn't say third. I just think JUCO guys are under a little bit more scrutiny, and there's just more question marks there because there's just not as much data to go off of with the junior college guys. JUCO guys are still going to be highly sought after as long as you perform. And again, the performance is relative to the position you play. So if you're a corner outfielder, they don't just want decent power numbers. I mean, they want guys that are hitting 10 plus home runs there at the junior college level. Corner infield, same thing. If you play up the middle, there's more leeway. If you're a catcher, shortstop, center fielder, and you're a really good defender, and you hit 330 or 325 with a bunch of extra base hits, like they're way more likely to go after a guy like that than a corner outfielder. Like a corner outfielder, they want to see home runs. Like that's really what they care about. And so those are again, it's just depending on the position, you're going to be under more scrutiny out of junior college. I would have caught that ball. John, I mean, I don't disagree, man. I mean, it's not, again, what you have to understand is the pressure of that moment, the stage you're on. There's a lot more pressure on you than just a normal day catching that ball. But still, I think it's Davalin. I don't know how you say his last name. Like, I think he would tell you 100 times out of 100, I catch that ball. It was literally hit right at him. He just broke back, which is fine. Like you break back on a ball like that. But the issue was when the panic dive, thinking he didn't have as much time as he did. And then all of a sudden he's diving too early. Or he tripped. Maybe he tripped. I don't know. I'm just saying when I watched the video, I didn't really see a trip. I think it was kind of a panic early dive and then just couldn't recover. Virginia going to 25 scholarships, but sounds like Pollard will have the option to go for more. Yeah, I saw that. That's great for Virginia. I mean, as far as the ACC goes, that'll put them near the top for pretty much everybody. And I'm sure that was that was part of the deal with Pollard coming to Virginia. Is I want more support than I've had at Duke, everything like that. There's a lot of Panhandle Conference players that are still uncommitted. Yeah, and the guys I'm working with out of there, they're having conversations for the most part. Like I said, if you're an up the middle player, a catcher, shortstop, center fielder, you're probably having more conversations now than a corner outfielder or whatever. But those guys, a lot of those guys will get committed eventually, or what they'll do is they'll have options at some point here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But they may think, all right, I go back, I put up better numbers, another year of a track record, depending if they're first year or second year, and go back. So it's just all about that. We have heard about the Duke job that potentially Corey Muscara could be getting that job at Duke. That's not confirmed, but I mean, we've heard through the grapevine that from some people that have said like it's kind of getting close to a done deal, but won't know until it's confirmed. I mean, I do think the longer, in my mind, before we heard that, it was pretty obvious that it was Josh Jordan's to turn down once LSU was out, because when a job like Duke in this environment with the portal and transfers and people leaving Duke to go to Virginia or wherever, you kind of want to fill that. You want to fill that job as soon as possible, unless the guy you're going to fill it with is still playing. So the longer this Duke job has stayed open, the more and more confident I became that it was pretty much Josh Jordan's to turn down. Now, we don't know. I mean, I'm sure Duke has already reached out to him, and he could have very well said, not interested, or said, unless you guys are willing to do this, I'm going to stay at LSU. That conversation could have already happened. So now they've kind of moved on. But we have heard that Corey Muscara is looking like could be the guy at Duke. So we'll see about that. I do think if that's the case, it probably will happen soon, right? Because we still have LSU still got the College World Series final to play in, and that's going to take another, let's see what the schedule is. Is it another 3 or 4 days? So it looks like the men's final, is it starting Saturday? Okay, yep, Saturday, Sunday, and then potentially Monday if it's needed. So, that's another 4 or 5 days where Duke's going to be missing out on guys in the portal. They're going to be missing out on high school recruiting. Because right now, Duke has nobody on staff. It's not like, generally what usually happens is if a head coach leaves, but there's still staff there, they still may be on staff. They may be vying for the head coach opportunity, and they're still out. They're going to go out recruiting and everything like they still have a job. But right now, there's the whole staff from Duke's essentially left. So Duke's kind of in limbo right now, recruiting, portal, everything. So we'll see what happens with that here pretty soon. I would imagine if it's not going to be Josh Jordan, and I know Murray State's head coach has gotten in the mix as well. But like I've said, what we've heard is that it was looking like it's going to be Muscara now, depending on. That's either if Josh Jordan turns it down or he already turned it down, from what I've heard. Game 1 will be a pitching duel, in my opinion. I think, honestly, dude, it seems like that's going to be the case for, you want to talk about two pretty evenly matched teams. I think LSU has a little bit of an advantage, probably overall stuff-wise, across the board pitching, but Coastal Carolina's pitching is about as good as it can possibly get. So both offenses are really good. It's going to be a pretty even series. It's actually going to be a really exciting series because there's not one area where you think, okay, this team is definitely way better in this in this aspect of the game. Again, you're going to have, like, LSU is going to have some, if you look just purely off statistics, advantages in places. Like, again, I think overall stuff-wise, they will have an advantage. I think, Coastal's hitting 291 as a team. They got 123 doubles, 66 home runs. Like, they really drive the ball. On base percentage over 400. LSU, as far as pure hitting, is going to be a little bit better. And they've hit for, more power and everything like that. But again, the differences are not much. I mean, LSU's hitting 298 as a team. They've hit 134 doubles, so only a little bit more than Coastal. The one advantage LSU has is they've hit about 40 more home runs than Coastal Carolina. But at the end of the day, Coastal's got a fantastic pitching staff, and so does LSU. Like, you have starters that have been basically bulldogs. I mean, Cade Anderson's got 170 strikeouts and 110 innings and only 30 walks. And then Anthony Ianson's got 101 innings pitched, 143 strikeouts, 35 walks. So, I mean, these teams are about as evenly matched as you can possibly get as far as overall game, right? LSU's got a little more power. Coastal, I think you could say, they both have very deep pitching staffs. It's gonna be a great series. It's gonna be a great series. Coastal by the numbers has a better pitching staff, but again, you have to warrant that with they didn't play in the SEC all year, but certainly even Coastal staff would have been one of the best in the SEC. They don't have quite the strikeout numbers that LSU has, right? LSU's got, if we look at it by the numbers, I mean, LSU's got 737 strikeouts. Coastal's got 602, right? So that's a pretty big difference, but Coastal's got a lower ERA. They have like 70 or 80 less walks than LSU. So Coastal, they're not going to walk as many guys. They're not going to strike out as many guys. LSU is going to strike out more guys, but they're going to walk more guys. It's just, I mean, it's going to be a fantastic series. I mean, if you look at it, I think LSU, for the most part, really has not been able to figure out the third starter. The Sunday starter has kind of been up in the air all year for LSU. There's been, you've had Shores there, Connor Ware there. You have multiple guys with 5 or 6 starts, 3 or 4 starts. So 1-2 punch, LSU probably has better stuff overall, but Coastal has very, very similar type pitching. Coastal has a lockdown Sunday guy, right? They have 3 guys that have all made 16 plus starts, and they all have under a 3.2 ERA. So, like, this is about as good of a matchup as they can possibly get. When Coastal won their first national title in 2016, it was a Cinderella run. This year isn't. That team is legit. Seems like every at-bat is quality. Yeah. I mean, Coastal's, they've won 28 straight now or 27 straight now. It's just, it's ridiculous. And I think Kevin Schnall's made it very clear, like, we're not a Cinderella story. Like, this was our goal at the beginning of the year. We knew we were good enough to do this. And they are. Their team's legit. It's not like you're looking at a mid-major team and you're like, man, they're just playing great. Like, they're just playing the way they've played all year. The thing with mid-majors is you always wonder when they get into postseason play and they're playing the SEC team or the ACC team in the super regional 3-game weekend, like, are they as good as their numbers and their records show? Because they've played in a not as competitive conference, even though the Sun Belt is one of the best conferences in college baseball. Coastal's proven that, yeah, they're legit. They also have one of the best pitching staff in college baseball. Yes. I mean, Coastal's up, like, I think it's they're top 5, top 10 in most of the pitching categories. LSU is up there as well. Like I said, it's a very even matchup. The really big outlier that I see is that LSU has hit more home runs. They've hit we can call it almost double the home runs that Coastal has hit, and a few more doubles. But against Coastal's pitching, is LSU going to be able to put up as many runs as, they put up as many home runs as they have all year, particularly in TD Ameritrade, where it's actually a big boy park, right? Like, most college stadiums are significantly smaller in certain areas of the outfield than like a professional park. TD Ameritrade is about as legitimate of a professional park as far as dimensions as you can get. So the home run ball, it becomes less of a factor for more hitters in TD Ameritrade. Like a guy like Jones, Bear Jones with LSU, like he can run it out anywhere, and a few other guys can. But it's the guys who don't quite have that legitimate power that have been kind of elevated by how the ball travels now in college baseball. Those are the guys that may hit one really well and it goes fly out to the warning track or off the wall for a double instead of a home run. So I do think playing in TD Ameritrade kind of equalizes LSU's power threat to some degree. But remember, they hit a bunch of doubles too. And they walk a bunch. Again, I mean, both teams just match up really well. It's going to be an exciting series. And they got a few days off to kind of recover and everything. So you're going to get to see these teams, for the most part, at their best. A true 3-game series. And again, I mean, that I thought, man, Arkansas, I thought, LSU came back and then Arkansas took the lead. And it was just like nobody could throw up zeros. And that inning was just a nightmare for Arkansas. And again, I think like the left fielder Davlin or whatever, however you say his last name, like he's going to get a lot of crap on social media and everything. But the play of that inning was a routine ground ball double play where Wahiwa Aloy, I think I never can say it right, where he just got the out at third, right? Like you get the out at third when that ball's in the hole and you're making a play on the run and you're like, we're not going to turn 2 here. Let me just get the lead out. That makes sense. That would have been totally different. That ball was hit right back to him quickly, and it looked like a routine double play. And they win the game. And even if you don't, now the tying run's at first, right? So it's the same scenario because the tying run was still at first, even if you get the lead runner. So it just didn't make sense to make that play as far as a game management, and from that perspective, it did not make sense. You're not gaining any advantage from getting that out at third because that run doesn't matter. That's not the tying run. So, I mean, that was just a storyline. Is LSU's coach lost to Coastal in 2016 at Arizona? Yep. Yeah, Jay Johnson. Yep. So. And again, man, I mean, you talk about Jay Johnson, like, I mean, last year he was getting flack from LSU fan base for, going 13-17 in conference and barely making the tournament and all that. And they're back in the men's College World Series final. No big deal. And I mean, he wins this one, like he already is in the upper, like, but just like historically in college baseball, to win multiple championships is that's a pretty small group of people that have done that, especially in this modern game where there's so many more teams that are really competitive. Like he's going to be up on the Mount Rushmore of college coaches. Generally speaking, I mean, not, he's not quite there at like top 4 coaches all time, but his resume is certainly trending in that direction if he wins this men's College World Series final coming up. And I know Josh Jordan pretty well. I mean, I've known him since coaching at Georgia Tech, and then I run into him out on the summer circuit every summer and talk with him for pretty much every summer. There's one game we're both sitting at, and we just sit there for a couple hours talking. And so I'm actually really like, if he wants the Duke job, I hope he gets it because I think he's earned his stripes, and I think he would do a heck of a job. I mean, I think he is the perfect kind of candidate there because he was part of the building into what Duke is now with Pollard. And so I think he understands more than anybody what needs to be done recruiting-wise and development-wise at Duke to turn the program into what it is and keep it where it's at now, right? Because that's the concern if you're Duke. You lost – Josh Jordan left a few years ago. Pollard's gone now. The whole staff's gone. And so the guys that built Duke into a 4 Super Regionals in 8 years type team are now gone. And if you can get one of those guys back, and especially Josh Jordan, who was kind of the recruiting architect of that let's call it a rebuild of the program, that's a major win for Duke because he has the formula. He just do what he's done, what he did at Duke, and obviously things he's learned under Jay Johnson and what they've done at LSU. But I mean, again, Corey Muscara is a guy who, I mean, his name's been floated around a bunch. I know I saw Skylar Meade now is being thought of as well, like a very highly considered candidate. I know you don't like giving gambling advice, but if you had to bet, would you take over or under 8.5 runs in game one? Shoot, man. I mean, it's hard to say in college, but I think, 8.5, like 4 runs a team. That's a tough one, dude. That's a tough one. And I think here's the problem, John. Who are the projected starters? Is it Friday versus Friday guy? I mean, is that the projected starters? Because that's the issue is if they haven't declared who will be starting, I think they know who's likely to start, but that can change. I appreciate the super chat. Yeah, I mean, I think if it's Cade Anderson or Ianson, I mean, either one, it's I would say the under is probably safe, but like in this environment of college baseball, like over under 8.5 runs that's scary because it's just it's just with the way the ball. But I say NTD Ameritrade with 2 aces on the mound that are as good as Coastals and LSU's, that's probably the right way to go. I'll say it like that. That's probably the right way to go. Conyo, 24 minutes late. What's up, Canes? What have we discussed? We're just talking. We're basically talking last night's game, and then some of the coaching updates. Like one of the updates I gave is we have heard that potentially Corey Muscara will be the new head coach at Duke. Obviously, until that's finalized, we won't know for sure. But in my opinion, and you guys have heard me say this, that was Duke is Josh Jordan's job to turn down. So I'm sure Duke has reached out to Josh Jordan. Like they reach out to these coaches, they back channel just to garner interest in like what a coach would want and what the needs would be and see if that makes sense so they can kind of speed up the process. So I think if that's the case, that means, in my opinion, that probably Josh Jordan turned it down. What are your thoughts on the Rutgers pitching transfer Georgia Tech got? So it's funny, Zach, yesterday morning at like 8:30, I was talking to Ramsey on the phone, and I was just kind of, it's the first time we had really talked extensively after he's been named the head coach. And he was talking to me about that guy, and he hadn't committed yet. And he's like, yeah, we had this guy in from Rutgers, and, he's really good arm, throws hard. ERA wasn't great, but like the bare bones are there to like do some development stuff and maybe turn him into a top tier arm. Now, he told me there were multiple teams on him that had offered him serious money. Like one of the things we're hearing from coaches is that the market for even players that, especially pitchers that have really good arms but didn't put up great numbers, is insane what these guys are getting. And so that guy had, he had a bunch of, he had some serious offers and ended up choosing Georgia Tech. And I think the reasoning was, listen, at some of these schools, like at some of these schools that have so much NIL money. One second, I got to send my wife something. I'll stay on that thought here in a second. At some of these schools that have so much NIL money, like a $75,000 to $100,000 offer is not a guarantee that you're just going to get a bunch of innings no matter how you perform. And it's honestly, that's just the going rate. So even if you're getting paid that much money, if you get on campus and you don't look good in the fall and your first couple outings in the spring, you do not pitch well, like you could be just sitting back on the bench for the most of the season, even though you're making that much money. So I think that was realistically a big part of the decision, was that I feel like even though you're getting that much money, it's at some of these schools, like that's not a guarantee that you're going to play a lot. I had a question I wanted to ask you about the Navy recruiting corner. Do they also have a JV team like their football team does? We didn't ask him that, Canes. I don't think they do. I could be wrong, but that's something I can ask him and get back to you about. You see the Cade Brown to Tech news? Yes, I did. And that's interesting, right? Because where is Cade Brown going to fit in that Georgia Tech lineup that's returning 8 starters? It'll be interesting to see. You could see, if I pull this up here, one of the things that, does Cade Brown fill in the outfield somewhere? Does, it's just like Georgia Tech, just to be honest, for like an offensive guy transferring in or even a high school freshman coming in, like that's going to be a tough lineup to break into. Now, you do know after your freshman year, like almost all those guys are going to be gone, except for the freshmen. So except for, and even Alex Hernandez, I don't know if he's a draft eligible sophomore. I don't know if Caleb Daniels a draft eligible sophomore, and some of those other guys. So it depends on that. But like realistically, the lineup, not this coming season, but in 2 seasons, is going to be totally different. So that's a tough lineup to break into as a freshman. But I mean, Cade Brown was a highly, highly regarded bat and player coming out of high school. And again, I think, made a decision to go to Georgia based on being a fan of Georgia. And I don't know this for sure, but I mean, just from talking to people, I think it was like he was always going to go to Georgia. And again, when like Georgia likes bringing in portal bats, like that's what they did. They brought in a bunch of portal bats, and it was just, I mean, you had guys like Bryce Clavin, who was one of the highest regarded high school players in the country. He didn't really play much. I mean, he didn't play at all. He got some at bats. He's at Clemson now. Cade Brown was a highly regarded guy. Now he's at Georgia Tech. So, it's interesting how these teams need to balance it, because if you get the reputation that all you do is bring in portal bats to play, what's going to happen if, what happens when high school players don't want to commit to you anymore? What are high school players getting compared to transfer portal guys? It depends on the school, man, but it's generally less than unless you're a top tier high school player, it's less than a portal guy who's coming in and's proven himself. Because the problem with high school guys is there's plenty of highly touted high school players that turn into nothing. So it's way more of a gamble to give a large amount of money to a high school player, even if they're supposed to be really good, because some of those I play with them, like guys that were top 50 players in the country, top 100 players in the country that come in and like never touch the field. Georgia Tech got a third baseman in the portal from Pittsburgh. Yeah, Zuckerman. And I think that is one of the spots in the lineup. The thing is with Georgia Tech's lineup, the 8 guys they have returning, they have some real versatility in that lineup. So you have Carson Curse, who kind of played third base and some second this year, and Alex Hernandez played corner outfield and second. And so does Curse move to short? Does Zuckerman play third? Curse moves to short. And then what do you do as far as Alex Hernandez, is he going to play second? Is he going to play a corner outfield spot? Is he going to DH? Is he going to DH because he's going to pitch more next year, which I think you probably want to see if you're Georgia Tech. You want to see a guy who's got a really good arm get more innings on the mound. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I think there is versatility in that lineup to kind of plug in different guys. It's just going to be interesting. It's going to be determined on how those guys show up in the fall and how they look. I hope Coastal shocks the world, but LSU is tough. Yeah, LSU is, again, they're very well coached, and so is Coastal. I just think it's anyone can win this. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to say, well, LSU is, has the strikeout numbers, has the power numbers. But again, in that environment, in that high pressure environment, it's anyone can take it. It's really the people that win that game is the team that can handle that pressure more successfully across the lineup and across the pitching staff. And I think both teams have shown that. So I think it's going to be a really close. Series. I think it goes 3 games, and I think it's like a battle every game. Like, I hope it's not a blowout in, a game or two, but I just think these two teams are so evenly matched, and like Coastal doesn't walk anybody. So but they match up well because LSU walks a lot, right? So is LSU going to be able to work walks? Is that going to take away from their offense? Is the bigger stadium, the bigger dimensions of TD Ameritrade going to make LSU's power advantage less of an advantage? It's going to be such a BA series, great energy from both teams and fans. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be electric. And I think, again, it's like these are, if you want the game to grow, this is what you wanted to happen. You wanted to show that a Coastal Carolina who's a mid-major. Now, people that aren't like major college baseball fans, they're probably like, Coastal Carolina, they're good at baseball. Those of us who watch, like, we know Coastal is a top-tier program and has been for a long time. But you want like this mid-major versus SEC or ACC matchup and showcase how talented across the levels of Division I baseball these players are. And so I think as far as growing the game and growing the college game and keeping that getting bigger and bigger, this is about as good as you can get. You have a blue blood brand in LSU, and you have Coastal Carolina, who's been one of the best mid-majors in the country for the last couple decades. And so it's just like it's a dream matchup. And in the state, like you said, the stands are going to be packed. They're going to be loud. You're going to see what a true college baseball environment is at a high level. If they didn't attend the combine, what are you saying, Canes? I didn't see. Maybe you typed something earlier. I just see if they didn't attend the combine. With both those pitching staffs, I would be shocked if there are any blowouts. Yeah, I agree. Now, again, everyone has bad days, but like Coastal hadn't had a bad day in a while. Coastal hadn't lost a game in a couple months. I mean, it's been like a couple months since Coastal lost a game. And then LSU's just been fantastic in the postseason. And they were fantastic in the regular season. And also, how likely is it for a junior to get drafted if he did not get invited to the draft combine? I would tell you the draft combine is not nearly as important as people think. It's a great environment to see guys get in front of a bunch of different players, but like, you're not getting drafted based on what you did at the combine in college baseball. And a lot of guys who had really good years will not go to the combine because what their agents will tell them is like, you can only really hurt yourself. Like, you're in really good position. So can the combine do a little bit as far as you get drafted lower or higher? Sure. But generally speaking, especially for college players, you're getting drafted based on what you did, your career, and this season in particular. The draft combine, and the thing about baseball is a guy can have a bad showing at a combine and end up being a big leaguer for 15 years, right? So like, you're not gonna really knock a guy for not looking as good as you thought he was going to look at a combine when he hit 350 with 18 home runs and played center field all year in college. Like, that's You're baseball, you have to draft. Again, tools are important. And I guess that's for the combine. That's where you get to see the tools as closely as possible in that kind of environment. But again, like baseball's about how does this guy play over the course of a season and how does he grind and how does he put together at bats. And so the combine is great, but it's not super important. Another question, if a player declines or doesn't get invited to the MLB draft combine and they are ranked between top 200 to no rank by MLB, how likely are they to get drafted? High school player. High school player, it's much less likely because one, high school players generally want more money and are going to ask for more money out of high school. And if you're not in the top 200 out of high school, you probably shouldn't be getting drafted very high. And now that it's only 20 rounds, again, there are outliers and there are still players that kind of slip through the cracks of these rankings. And you'll see that on on the draft days. You'll see, man, this guy, he wasn't even ranked, and like the Marlins are taking him here or whatever. But that's because they've seen somebody that maybe didn't play a lot of the showcases and didn't go to a lot of big tournaments, but they've, late bloomer or whatever. But for a high school player, it's not in the top 200. If you do get drafted, you either have a very low, like you're very signable, like you don't want a lot of money, and an organization thinks, well, we can pick him in the 18th round, and we think he could be something, but if not, if he doesn't turn anything, he just wants like 50 grand, like they'll do that. So there's so many things, there's so many variables that go in the major league draft. It's not just about your talent, it's about your signability, how much money you want. Like Drew Burress, you think major league teams are like, man, we should have drafted him in the first round in the draft out of high school? Yeah. But he was not considered easy to sign. He had a very solid commitment to Georgia Tech, and he wanted a lot of money in the draft. And teams at that point, I think probably because he's undersized, were not willing to give him what he wanted. Now, I did hear he got offered over 7 figures. So I think, most guys would be happy with that. But Drew decided that was not what he wanted something more to go out of high school, and it's paid off for him, I think. Also, what about if the high school player didn't get invited to the combine, but they got invited to the draft league in West Virginia? What are the chances of them getting drafted? Shortstop Mario Magana from Columbus. Again, it's so nuanced, especially with high school players. Like the reality is that, let's just talk about a kid in the top 50. All 30 organizations will have completely different opinions about that one player. Some organizations will think, man, he's not nearly ready to go play pro ball. Some organizations will think, we love him. Now with analytics being just more and more involved in the draft, a lot of it's about, how do the analytics line up? How do his metrics line up? Stuff like that. So it's just too hard to give a direct answer to that, Canes, because a guy like Mario could not get drafted, could not go to the combine, but he balls out in the draft league, and some scouts see him and they're like, dude, this guy's really good. Again, like major league teams draft the wrong guys all the time. They draft the right guys sometimes. It's kind of a crapshoot. There's no other way to say it. I mean, baseball is, I would wager that baseball is probably the hardest sport to evaluate players and how they're going to project at the next level. Because if you think about it, there's no other sport really that drafts that many high school players. Basketball doesn't. Football certainly doesn't. And so for baseball, the other thing that's different about baseball is you're not just going straight to the big leagues. You're going to the lowest level of the minor leagues. So what you have to establish, right, do these guys, is this a gritty enough kid he's going to be able to grind through the minor leagues? Is he mentally tough? He's going to be able to deal with the failure that comes with baseball. And is he going to physically mature over the next 3 or 4 years to where we think he could be? Because right now, if he just stays the same, he's not going to play in the big leagues. But if he there's so much projecting out and everything in baseball, it's never has been and never will be an exact science, because it's so hard to project out on high school players. College players, it's hard, but at least they're playing against really good competition out of the a good mid-major conference or the SEC, the ACC, whatever. It's much easier to project those guys. High school players, it's just like flip a coin. I mean, that's really what it is. Mario's ranked top 60 overall, but didn't show much power this year, but he has a lot of potential. Yeah, and so again, a lot of it with a guy like Mario is they're trying to figure out, okay, he didn't hit for enough power, a lot of power this year, but he's got, maybe he can put 25, 30 pounds on. And when he does that, is he going to hit for more power? A lot of these guys, when they're drafted, like Mike Trout, when Mike Trout was drafted, I don't think many evaluators thought he was going to be a 45 home run guy or close to a 50 home run guy every year he's healthy. Even in the minor leagues, he never did anything close to that. Now, that part of that is the balls were different, so the balls just don't go as much in the minor leagues until they switched the AAA to the major league balls in like 2019. So it's just so hard to project out those guys. Whereas in the NFL draft, you're drafting college players to go straight to the NFL. In the NBA, you're drafting mostly a bunch of college players. There may be one or two high school guys in the draft, but it's all college after that. And they're most of the time going straight to the NBA, right? They do have the G League, which is kind of like the minor leagues, but it's not. The minor leagues, it's like, all right, you gotta. The thing that's totally different about baseball is you get drafted. Some of these kids get millions of dollars, and then they go to A ball. That rookie ball is not a thing anymore, So used to you go to rookie ball, then you go to advanced rookie or short season A ball, then you go to A ball, high A, double A, triple A, and you had to dominate all those leagues. It wasn't like, what the difference in Major League Baseball now is if you're a prospect and you hit 230, like you have a not great year, they're just promoting you the next year. In 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if you didn't like really show a mastery of that level, and again, that mastery is different for the type of player. If you're a power guy and you hit 260 with 20 home runs, like you're going to get promoted. 250, 20 home runs, promoted. Guy like me, you got to hit around 300, high on base, score a lot of runs, play good defense. Now it's just they just promote guys. You hit like 220 with a 30% strikeout rate and like 15 home runs, you're going up to double A, you're going up to triple A. So it's different now, but baseball is just a different animal. The pitcher GT got, I was recruiting him to Miami. I'm not surprised by that, Canes. I'm not surprised by that. But it's going to be interesting to see how the draft goes. I mean, we're getting pretty close, and it's going to be exciting to see, who I think there's a real, I don't think there's a clear number. There's not a clear number one. I mean, a lot of people think Jamie Arnold. I don't think he's a for surefire number one pick. Could he definitely be the number one pick? 100%. But it's not like you have a Paul Skeens or a Steven Strasburg. And those drafts don't come along very often. That's like a once in 10 years type draft where this guy cannot be picked anywhere but number one. Right. And if you think about it, the Steven Strasburg draft was the exact same draft as Bryce Harper. Like Bryce Harper would have gone number one in any other draft, but Steven Strasburg was just like a generational pitching talent. And so that was a crazy draft with Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg. I mean, you think about that draft was insane. The amount of talent in that first round of that draft, insane. So how do coaches evaluate talent? Through experience and intuition? Well, I think you use everything, John. I mean, you use metrics where that's a viable thing, but you also have to you get on the phone with these guys, you talk with them, you get a sense for, man, is this guy confident? Can he hold conversations? Get a sense of what his makeup is. It's everything. Intuition, like, hey, this guy's swing reminds me of this guy who played in the big leagues. Like, okay, there's something there. My dad always said, like, the old legendary scouts would always say, this guy reminds me of this guy. His swing reminds me of this guy. His motion reminds me of this guy. His breaking ball reminds me of this guy's breaking ball. So it was comparative to guys that they had picked drafted in the past that had gone on to have successful careers. You hearing anything on where Carson Tinney is leaning? I'm not. I haven't heard anything about him. He's waiting around for a while. I mean, he seems like he's playing the Hey, what offers do you got? What do you guys got for me? Using an elite player as an example here, which stats and what means more? Junior year high school baseball season stats or junior year summer ball circuit season stats? This kid plays on the best travel team. Neither. I think stats are important, but in travel ball, the problem is like the game changer stats are like done by parents or players. So that's a problem. And so you can't look at those stats seriously. Now, generally, are they going to hit 30 points higher than they did, 40 points, 50 points, maybe something like that, sometimes worse. But it's not about stats. And we had Zeke Pinkham on the podcast today. He'll be dropping on Monday. And one of the things he said when he's recruiting is, I'm not results oriented. I'm looking at his bat speed, his approach, his mentality, his attitude, his effort level. If he's got bat speed and he's got swinging at good pitches, he's going to be fine. Like he could go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and I'm still on him because he's got bat speed. He's got a quick bat. He's making good decisions. He's not swinging at balls. He's swinging at strikes, and he just had a bad day. So high school stats in general are really sketchy to look at, unless they're bad. If they're bad, then that's a major red flag. But I would generally say high school stats, just like your regular high school season, are probably more accurate than the summer ball stats. So you don't really... Looking at both of them, you need to look at them with a grain of salt. The player I'm referring to only played 12 games his junior year for no real reason. He had 320 and 2 home runs, but in summer ball circuit, he has 6 home runs in his first 8 at-bats this summer. Yeah, so 320 is a red flag for me in high school. And the reason being is, what's a good player in college hit? 340, 330, 320? And if you're a 320 hitter in high school... The idea that you're going to be that or better in college, now guys can develop and improve and everything like that. But again, a college coach looking at that is thinking, that's not what you would want to see. So how much money is Carson Tinney going to get? Probably a couple hundred grand. I mean, and from what I've been hearing this summer, that's something around that. Depends on which school he ends up deciding on and everything. And they are putting a lot of incentives into these contracts now. So like if you're a first team all SEC or all American or whatever, they're putting a lot of incentives into these contracts now. No one down here knows why he only played 12 games his junior season. His team went 8-20, a huge shocker, honestly, but PG keeps posting him now, smashing every ball he sees at the WWBA. Yeah, it might have been off the field things, man. Like that stuff happens. It could have been off the field. The player I'm referring to is rated the number 1 overall player by every website, Jacob Lombard. Yeah, could have had an injury. Could have had an off the field thing. Grades. I don't know. And again, I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. But there's a host of different factors that could be a reason for a player like his caliber not playing much his junior year. And I would guess it's probably injury related. Like that's probably what it is. 90% of the time, that's what it is when a guy misses games. 10% of the time, it's, breaking a team rule, off the field stuff, grades. But that's more rare in high school. I mean, that doesn't happen a whole lot, especially with a player of that caliber. Generally, those guys, you get to that high of a caliber player from a work ethic. And so usually that work ethic kind of bleeds into other things you do. He was hurt, Burke? Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. I don't think it's any of that. His brother is the Yankees' top prospects. Dad is a hitting coach of the Tigers. He comes from a professional family. He also plays soccer. Yeah, and Burke's saying he was hurt. I mean, that's like 90 to 95% of the time when a kid like that misses a significant amount of games, it's because of an injury. What are your thoughts on how many players Georgia's taken in the portal? That's their strategy, man. Like, that's what they're doing. They want to bring in proven guys. And again, it's like, I understand that strategy. High school players, you really never know if they're going to be good or not when they get on campus. A kid that's played 3 or 4 years in college and put up numbers consistently, you know what you're going to get. Justin LeBron or Jared Jones? Justin LeBron, I think. It depends on what you're asking as far as in a clutch situation or a like future career who's going to end up being better. So like clarify the question. So I'm assuming Justin LeBron is staying at Bama? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Another question to you. After what you told me, where would you rank Georgia Tech in the ACC in that category? I would say they're still probably... I would say they're around middle of the pack, but near the bottom of the middle of the pack. One thing that Georgia Tech gets killed by with this new house settlement thing is Georgia Tech does not have nearly as many women's sports as other Power 4 schools. So because of that, the Title IX implications really crush them because they just don't have enough women's sports. And so they just will not get nearly as much money from all this stuff because of Title IX. So Georgia Tech's really hurting because of that. I got to take Jones after last night. Who would you draft first? Justin LeBron, 100%. Justin LeBron, draft first. I think LeBron, again, he's a freshman. I think he has I think mentality and makeup stuff has to improve for him, but he was a freshman, so that's definitely possible. But I think he's a shortstop. He's got that kind of power and speed. Can stick at shortstop probably. Like that's, you draft him 100%. Now, who do I want up in a clutch situation? Jared Jones. Playing soccer is a big red flag, socialist sport. I think it's a smart strategy, but high school arms is where you need to continue to stack 100%. And Zeke said that on the podcast today. He basically said like, you in this environment, you need pitchers. You need as many arms as you can get, and that's who they're like. He's like, we're going to spend money on pitchers, 100%. It's like in football, you can get guys in the portal, but your meat, O-line and D-line, baseball pitching, you mostly have to get that through high school. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it depends on which school you're at. If you're at LSU, you can get pitchers in the portal that are going to come in and just be ballers. But you're right, for the majority of schools that can't just go get a bunch of pitchers in the portal, you gotta bring in high school kids that throw strikes and you can develop into more velocity. I think a lot of problems in college baseball right now are guys who are still recruiting the velo over the pitchability. In pitchability, you're going to be able to compete. Now it's the job of the pitching coach and the strength coach to develop the velocity. Like these guys developing velocity is not really hard. I mean, there's kind of a system for that now. What's really hard is developing command of an arsenal. I mean, that's much harder than developing velocity. So I think when you are recruiting high school pitchers, if you can sit around 90 and you throw strikes with 2 or 3 pitches, like that's a guy you want, because hopefully in a year or two, he's put on 20 pounds. He's been doing velocity program and he's up to like 93, 94. And then boom, LSU number 1 and 2 are transfers. Correct. Yes. Miami has the same issue with women's sports. Kane's always talking about meat, shaking my head. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I don't know if I'll be able to do a stream tomorrow because I think I'll be at Lake Point actually at 12:30. So, but for this weekend when the World Series starts, we'll do a nighttime stream. A few of those covering the game and everything, and maybe if it gets to Monday, we can do a stream during the game. So I'll keep you guys up to date with that. But thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again here this weekend. So I'll see you guys